Greetings, members of the Blender 101 live online class. Earlier today, I was putting together the models that we're going to need for the next class, which will take place this Saturday, and that is the class over texturing. So right now, we're in the middle of everybody should be getting their models done. And it occurred to me that I needed to get my models done too, so I'd have everything ready. And I started doing the golf ball. And while I was modeling the golf ball, it occurred to me that I actually knew of a different and potentially a better way to do a golf ball than I had shown in the live session earlier this week. So I thought I'd put together a really quick video showing how to do that. Now, if you've already turned in your assignment, there's no need to resubmit. It's not that critical. If you'd like to do this golf ball and just kind of swap it out in your own personal scene for the next one you submit, that's fine. But if you don't do a golf ball like this, trust me, you haven't done it wrong. Honestly, this golf ball is going to get so little actual screen space that it doesn't much matter. But I thought I'd put this together more as a bonus for you guys than for any other reason. So check this out. What I'm going to do is hit Shift-A here in Blender, and I'm going to bring in an icosphere. Now, if I press F6, you'll notice that my subdivisions for this icosphere are set to 3, so you need to make sure you do the same thing. If F6 isn't working for some reason, make sure you open the toolbox and change your subdivisions in here. So a 3 subdivision icosphere. Let's go ahead and frame up on this. Now what we're going to do is jump over to our modifier panel. So it's over in the properties panel, click on modifiers, and I want you to add a subdivision surface. Set your subdivisions for the view up to 2. Now it's going to add a whole lot of faces to this sphere, but we're going to apply this. So now if you press tab, that's actually what the surface looks like. It has a whole bunch of faces. But there's a pattern to it if you look really closely. There is a center point vertex all over the place. There's a bunch of these. And these actually exist pretty much in the same location as the original vertices of the icosphere. And it looks like they're kind of surrounded by a little sort of hexagonal shape. So what we want to do is select all of those points. If you don't see them right away, just keep looking. There's a pattern that forms, and it makes these vertices pretty easy to pick out. But what we're going to do is systematically go across and select all of them. Now, if you don't want to watch me select all of these, please just scrub the timeline forward, or take the time to make the same selection yourself. Whatever makes you feel more comfortable. I promise not to feel too disappointed if you want to fast forward through this. I probably would if I was you. Of course, it's funny that I'm even saying that, because that means you're actually fast-forwarding through what I'm saying right now. Strange sort of paradox, yeah? And basically, in the end, each one of these points we're selecting is going to become a dimple in our golf ball. That's the idea, anyway. And yeah, this takes an extra couple of moments longer than the original golf ball I showed you. But you could probably, it'd probably be pretty easy to argue that it looks better. Oh. That's why I figured I'd go ahead and show it to you. And looks like that pretty much does it for the equator, and it looks like I've got everything up here. You don't want to miss one if you can help it, so definitely take the time to double check. But once you get the pattern down, you'll find that it's pretty easy to just systematically grab everything. By the way, for those of you who are just getting into modeling, this is the joy of it. A bunch of little points that you have to work with individually. If you find that you don't really like working with a whole bunch of points individually, then it's entirely possible that modeling is just not for you. And it doesn't mean you can't do it for sport. It doesn't mean you can't have a little bit of fun playing with something like ZBrush or keeping your models relatively basic, but when it really gets down to it, modeling really is all about tweaking a bunch of tiny little vertices one at a time. And it looks like I've got everybody, though it's kind of pretty actually, the way they have that little algorithm for making the edges get kind of that almost glow effect. It's an interesting looking shape. So once you got everything, it's time to do a little bit of scaling. So what we're going to do is make sure that our pivot point is set over here to median point. That means we're going to scale from the center. Now I'm going to make sure that proportional editing is set to disabled. I want that to be off. Tap the O key if you need to. Just make sure that's off. And when we scale, you'll see that we're taking those little points and pushing them in and out. Now, it's an interesting little trick. If you need just to double check and make sure that you got everybody, you can scale everybody way out and make a spike ball and then just rotate around because it'll be really obvious if you miss someone at this point. Of course, when you're finished, just make sure you undo. Now, what we're going to do is turn on proportional editing. I'm going to hit scale and I'm going to push this in slightly. Now, if your proportional editing radius is set really, really high, you're going to want to bring that pretty far down. I would go ahead and roll it down all the way towards 0 and then slowly start to bring it up. And here we are with a proportional editing size of about 0.11. And all we're wanting to do is just start to pull down those vertices at the edges of each one of these indentions. We don't want to pull them very far. Just barely nudge them. So maybe right about there. So actually, about 0.9 is working pretty well for me. And I'll push these in just a little bit further, reserving the right to jump back and set them further in if I need to. Now at this point, all we're going to do is jump out. So we'll go into object mode, add another subdivision surface modifier, and then we can kick its subdivisions up to 2 as well. And it'd probably be a good idea to go ahead and smooth shade this. And if we back out from it, we've got some nice dimples for a golf ball. Now, they're not perfectly crisp dimples, like if you were real, it's not the kind of golf ball where you might want to animate a fly walking across its surface really zoomed right in on top of it, but it does look much better than the one that we had created before. So that's it, really. I just wanted to kind of share that with you. It's just a nice way to make a pretty good looking golf ball. That is going to wrap things up for this video. Thanks a lot.